The most seductive and damaging trap a man can fall into in a relationship is the belief that his love alone can fix a woman. He observes her inconsistencies, the immaturity that surfaces during conflict, the emotional swings that seem to come from nowhere, the contradictions between her words and her actions, and he internalizes them as a challenge. He adopts a savior's complex, convincing himself that if he just provides enough love, enough stability, and enough proof of his unwavering loyalty, he can fundamentally reshape her character. He mistakes a project for a partner, embarking on a mission to heal wounds he did not create and solve puzzles he does not understand. This mindset is not noble. It is a profound error in understanding human nature and the dynamics of respect. The hard truth is that personal transformation cannot be bestowed upon someone by an external force, no matter how well-intentioned. A woman does not evolve because a man sacrifices his peace for her potential. She does not mature because he patiently guides her, lectures her, or absorbs her chaos. Lasting change is an internal process, sparked only when an individual is humbled by life's consequences and chooses, for themselves, to grow from the pain. It is a decision that must be made in solitude, not under the pressure of a partner's expectations. Until that internal catalyst occurs, any effort from the outside is not just futile. It is actively draining. The man pouring his energy into this endeavor will find himself emotionally bankrupt. Waiting for a return on an investment that was never his to make, this leads to the ultimate act of self-sabotage. Falling in love with potential instead of the person standing in front of you. He becomes captivated by the fleeting glimpses of the woman she could be, the loyalty she might show, the peace she could bring, the stability she promises to offer. These moments are like mirages, beautiful illusions that keep him marching forward through a desert of disappointment. He builds entire futures in his mind based on these fragments, ignoring the daily reality of who she actually is. This is a dangerous fantasy. You cannot construct a lasting relationship on the foundation of maybe and someday, by ignoring her present reality in favor of a imagined future version. He willingly steps into a prison of his own making, sentenced to a cycle of hope and letdown, always waiting for a transformation that is not his to command. The fundamental error in trying to change a woman is that it fundamentally misunderstands the nature of respect and attraction. When a man takes it upon himself to be the architect of her character, initiates a silent power struggle that he is destined to lose. His every attempt to guide, correct, or improve her is not received as a gift of leadership, but is often interpreted as a form of control and, more damningly, as weakness. He believes his efforts are a testament to his commitment and care, but she perceives them as evidence that he cannot accept her as she is. This perception is the death knell for genuine respect. A woman does not admire a man who is perpetually dissatisfied with her, who views her as a project in need of completion. Instead, her deepest respect is reserved for the man who possesses an unshakable sense of self, who stands firm in his own standards and boundaries, and who allows her the autonomy to decide whether she wishes to rise to meet them or not. This dynamic transforms the relationship from a partnership into a chase. The man is no longer pursuing the woman who exists. He is chasing a phantom, the potential of who she could become. He invests immense emotional energy into this pursuit, believing that his perseverance will eventually be rewarded. However, this very act of chasing inverts the natural dynamic of attraction. It communicates neediness and a lack of options. It tells her that he is so invested in this fantasy version of her that he is willing to overlook the present reality, making him seem less like a prize to be won and more like a supplicant, hoping to be chosen. She begins to test this dynamic, sometimes unconsciously, creating more chaos or resistance to see just how far his patience will stretch. The more he bends, forgives, and continues his campaign to fix her, the less she sees a man worth following, and the more she sees one she can manipulate. This is where the crucial distinction between a savior and a leader becomes apparent. A savior sacrifices himself for someone else, believing his martyrdom will inspire change. A leader, by contrast, focuses on his own mission and integrity, creating a standard that others must choose to align with. His energy is directed inward, toward building his own world according to his own values. He does not plead, nag, or attempt to drag anyone into his frame. He simply occupies it with such conviction that it becomes a magnetic force. A woman is invited to join him in this world. But the invitation is clear. She must meet the standards of that world on her own volition. There is no negotiation on the fundamentals. If she cannot, or will not, the leader understands that his mission is too important to compromise for someone unwilling to rise to the occasion. He protects his kingdom, and in doing so, he commands respect not by demanding it, but by embodying a value that is non-negotiable. This refusal to lower his value for someone else's inconsistency is the ultimate demonstration of strength. And it is the only thing that ever has a chance of inspiring genuine, lasting change. The most insidious cost of the mission to change a woman is not the wasted time or the emotional exhaustion, though those are severe. It is the slow, deliberate, and catastrophic abandonment of self. This process is rarely a conscious decision. It begins with what seem like minor, reasonable concessions, overlooking a sharp, disrespectful comment because she's had a bad day, excusing a small white lie to avoid a conflict, tolerating a flirty text with another man as a harmless bit of fun. You tell yourself you're being the bigger man, that you're choosing your battles wisely, that this is just what patience and understanding require. But each of these small compromises is a tiny fracture in the foundation of your character. Over time, these fractures multiply and connect, until the entire structure of your self-respect is compromised and on the verge of collapse. This erosion manifests most clearly in the dissolution of your boundaries. The man who started with clear lines in the sand soon finds himself redrawing them, again and again, moving them further back to accommodate her behavior. You stop speaking up when you're offended because you've learned it will trigger an argument or an emotional outburst that you now feel responsible for managing. You suppress your own truths and opinions, editing your speech to avoid landmines, walking on eggshells in your own life. Your energy, which should be directed outward, toward your mission, your goals, and your own growth, is instead turned entirely inward to the full-time job of managing her moods, her triggers, and her instability. You are no longer the captain of your ship. You have become a frantic crew member, desperately bailing water out of a vessel she keeps drilling holes in. In this frantic state, you inevitably lose the very core that made you attractive to your masculine center. Your groundedness, your unshakable frame. The self-betrayal is tragically mislabeled as love. You believe that by shielding her from the natural consequences of her actions by making excuses for her, by absorbing the pain she dishes out, by staying when any rational man would walk away, you are helping her. You believe your unwavering presence is a safe space for her to finally grow. This is a fatal illusion. Authentic growth is not forged in the comfort of constant forgiveness. It is forged in the fires of consequence. By protecting her from the results of her chaos, you are not aiding her evolution. You are enabling her stagnation. You are removing the very friction that life uses to sand down our rough edges. You become a safety net that allows her to behave recklessly without ever hitting the ground. The ultimate irony, the cruelest twist, is that if and when she does finally grow up, it will almost certainly be for the man who comes after you, the man who did not tolerate her nonsense, who presented her with the cold, hard consequence of losing him. You will have poured years of your life, your energy, and your soul into a project only to hand the finished product to someone else, leaving you with nothing but bitterness and the hollow realization that you were not her catalyst for change, but her enabler. The man who understands that his purpose is not to fix, but to filter unlocks a profound shift in power and peace. This is the essence of true leadership, not in a relationship, but in one's own life. The mindset shifts from one of constructionings, austingly trying to build a new version of someone else, to one of selection. He becomes a curator of his own inner circle, establishing immutable standards for the energy, respect, and alignment he requires from a partner. This is not about controlling another's behavior, but about fiercely controlling his own proximity to behavior that violates his peace. There is no lengthy negotiation or attempt to convince. The standard simply exists, like a sovereign border. A woman is either within its bounds, or she is not. If she is welcomed and cherished. If she is not, the consequence is not anger or debate, but simple, quiet departure. This is masculine clarity in its purest form. Yes. The recognition that your time and energy are the most valuable currencies you possess, and they will not be spent on remedial projects. This approach is powerful precisely because it replaces pleading, action, and words with unshakable consequence. A woman may argue with your lectures. She may debate your points, deflect your concerns, and weaponize your emotions against you. But she cannot argue with your absence. She cannot debate the silent, solid void that appears when you withdraw your attention. Your presence and your commitment after a boundary is crossed, that silence is the most potent teacher. It forces a mirror in front of her, not one you are holding up, but one created by the space of your departure. It makes her accountable not to you, but to herself. The man who masters this does not need to explain his standards repeatedly. He embodies them. His boundaries are communicated not through a list of demands, but through predictable, consistent reactions. A sign of disrespect is met with immediate withdrawal. A breach of trust is met with a permanent severance. There is no second guessing. There's no one more chance. Because he knows that each compromise is a crack in his own foundation. This practice of filtering, not fixing, is what allows a man to build his world without interruption. His primary focus remains on his mission, his health, his finances, and his vision. He is not drained by the endless emotional labor of managing another person's growth. This forward momentum is inherently attractive. It generates a gravitational pull. He is no longer chasing or convincing. He is creating, and in that state, he becomes a magnet. The wrong women who seek validation or a man to manipulate are repelled by this self-possession. As they find no opening to hook him with promises or drama, the right women, those who possess their own integrity and purpose, are irresistibly drawn to it. They see a man who values himself, and by extension, will value them without needing to control them. They are not projects to be fixed, but partners to be collaborated with. They will elevate themselves to meet his standard, not because he demanded it, but because they are inspired by the man he is and the world he is building. They want to contribute to that order, not be saved from their own chaos. In this way, the leader wins regardless of the outcome. He either gains a truly compatible partner, or he protects his peace, preserving his energy for his purpose and for a woman who is already whole. The ultimate liberation comes from the final, unequivocal acceptance of a simple truth: you are not her architect. The exhausting campaign to reshape another human being ends not in victory, but in the mutual resentment of two people who feel fundamentally misunderstood. She will resent you for the unspoken message that she is not good enough, that she requires your guidance to become whole. You will resent her for resisting your efforts, for failing to become the vision you clung to, for all the years of patience that yielded no return. The relationship, built on the unstable foundation of potential, inevitably collapses under the immense weight of these unmet expectations. Letting go of this futile endeavor is not an act of giving up on someone. It is the definitive act of choosing yourself. It is the decision to stop setting yourself on fire to keep another person warm, only to discover they preferred the cold. This choice to stand in your truth is the highest form of self-respect. Your duty is not to raise her into a better partner, to endure pain for her education, or to serve as a lesson in her life story. Your only duty is to yourself, to know your non-negotiable standards with crystalline clarity and to enforce them without apology. This is not cruelty. It is integrity. The man who walks away from misalignment is not cold-hearted. He is self-aware. He understands that the greatest gift he can offer a partner is a self-possessed man who knows his value. And the greatest disservice he can commit is to tolerate behavior that erodes his soul. Ironically, This unwavering commitment to your own peace is the only catalyst that ever has a chance of inspiring genuine change in another. Not because you intended to teach a lesson, but because your absence becomes the only consequence weighty enough to force a moment of introspection. When she loses a man who refused to bend, she is finally confronted with the unignorable reality of her own actions. She may never thank you for it, but the lesson is learned in the silence you leave behind, the reward for this. Courage is a peace so profound it transforms your entire existence. The mental real estate once consumed by analyzing her moods, rehearsing conversations, and nursing disappointments is suddenly reclaimed. The energy once spent on the futile labor of fixing is now free to be channeled into building your body, your wealth, your vision, a life of authentic purpose. You are no longer a reactive participant in someone else's drama. You are the author of your own story. This calm, centered stillness becomes your greatest asset. The chaos she may still bring cannot penetrate this peace because you have finally understood it is not yours to manage. You become a spectator to the storm, safe and unmoved within your own stronghold. This is how you win. You win by refusing to gamble your one precious life on a fantasy. You win by understanding that the right woman is not one you painstakingly assemble from broken pieces, but one who arrives already whole, ready to stand beside you, to add to your peace rather than drain it. You win by leading yourself so well that you become impossible to manipulate, difficult to disappoint, and a magnet for the very quality you once desperately sought to create. You are not here to fix her. You are here to lead yourself. And in that leadership, everything else, clarity, respect, and a love that requires no repair, finally falls into place.